So first off, I want to welcome you to Rewired for Leadership. I am Engelson, and I will be your trainer today. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more as we go through the class. So I'm not going to start there. So today's is a class leadership, and it is also an inspiration and a sampling of my 6-week course, Rewired for Peace. So let me just tell you a bit about that first so that you kind of get who I am and what I'm about. So Rewired for Peace is a course that has sort of morphed its into being throughout time, throughout experiences and collective efforts. Foundation work from like our fathers and mother transformations, such as Werner Erhard, John Enright, Alexander Everett, John Hanley. Some of you may have heard these names, some of you may not, and others from the human potential movement that was born about 60 years ago, before I was born. Now, 15 years ago in 2007, it was the first time that I came to this work, and I attended a transformational training, and I was absolutely blown away. It had me reframe my entire life, my past, reframe my past, reframe my present and the future. So if you imagine me being on a train track for my life, like if I go back then, I could probably sort of predict where I would end up. And, not that it was not in any way at all. But when I did the training, it sort of immediately just put me different. And things that I didn't even know was possible has already happened by now, because I'm on this new track now. And so because of this new way of seeing things, I was actually able to step into this whole new world of possibility, leadership, right? Power, gratitude. And so 3 years later, in 2010, wow, so that's still 12 years ago, I hired some of the top trainers in the field, and together we designed the gratitude training. And the gratitude training was transformational leadership training with a focus on creating a transformed world, which for me is to create peace, because that's the result that I want to see in my lifetime. I want to see peace in our minds, peace in our families, peace in the White House, peace in our communities, peace in the world, peace on the planet, right? So over the following 10 years, the gratitude training is massive, explosive growth. And we're operating in 5 cities across the US with over 20,000 graduates out there right now, right out in the world. There's lives and leaders in the world. And as with any business, especially, because of the rapid growth, right? Our headquarters was destroyed by a hurricane. I was cyberbullied for 2 years. I was previously sued for $6 million. Like all of these things occurring, and they were all causing these cash flow issues. So when COVID hit and I had to close all centers overnight, going back, there was no going back to the way things were, because I had over $200,000 a month in expenses and suddenly no income, right? And some people ask me, like, why didn't you pivot, immediately go online and offer the training online? And well, it would have been possible, right? But it would also have meant that I would have needed to generate 2,000 sales in the first month of a new online business model. And it seemed like a really tall order at the time, because I was also devastated, So instead, I took 2 years off and I handled what I needed to handle. I closed the business, I filed personal bankruptcy, lost the house, moved the family to Mallorca, Spain, which I'm not actually in Mallorca, Spain right now, because I'm in the US for Christmas. And which is because I don't have to be up at night running this course, right? I can actually do it at 6 p.m. And so we moved to Mallorca, and my parents have lived there for like the last 30 years. So that was exciting for me. And, I could probably spend a few hours giving you like a sob story about my business and our house in Florida and blah, 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 right? But that's not who I am. And it's not going to really solve anything, right? So even though the 2 years hard, my vision of peace and my gratitude for life still stayed intact. So then about 10 months ago, I decided it was time to joy, gratitude, and knowledge and experience and all the stuff with the world. And more importantly, I wanted to share powerful, but this time really take some time and effort to redesign it to be effective online, right? To reach a much broader audience. One of my mentors once told me that I needed to stop being a big fish in a small. And so now I'm a really small fish in a huge pond. So that's kind of exciting. So let's get started for today. So first off, I want to acknowledge you for being here. And I want to invite you on this call as an active listener. Just pay attention, right? Don't be phone, do other work on your devices. Just try to be present and listen for a place where you let go of all your judgments, assessments, filters, your stories, right? And be open. And in fact, I'd like for you to listen from a space, like a space that is, I create everything. Jo Englesson, you, right? You create everything. So, like you created this call. You created the content of the call. You created being on the call. You created me wearing this tie. You created it being really hot in my office, so like my cheeks are burning out. You created, you know, thing. So if this is not good, you generated that. If it's amazing, you generated that, right? Trust me, if it's not a good call, I have my responsibility too. You to be here in that way, that you're generating everything in your world, in your what you see, and you know that you're the one at choice to create the value that you want all the time, not just on this call, but all right. So my intention is that when you get off the call today, because of something you heard or thought of, the world will never be the same again, right? Simply your unique contribution, because you are that important. You have everything it takes. And that butterfly effect that is generated will start living from that space of peace and gratitude and whatever it is going to pick up on this call. Now, when trainers do trainings, or when they do, professional speakers do talk on stage and they do keynotes and whatever, usually the point that's called earn the right, right? So earn the right for a speaker is you want to somehow make sure that the audience, you want them to know that you have potential experience or the knowledge to speak about the topic you're presenting. Well, I'm not going to, because this class is about leadership. It's about vision. It's about principles. So my vision purpose statement. And here it is. This is how I will introduce myself. I'm Jo Englesson, and I'm a charismatic and joyful leader who creates peace in the world in the field of transformation and technology. That's it. That's what I'm up to. Now, what really matters, right? What matters is my vision, right? And how I execute it, and how I inspire others to take action on their heartfelt desires. And that's why I've invited you here, because I think it's becoming pretty clear to us by now that the virus, right? The virus has been here long before COVID-19. My background is in computer science, and I used to consult for a large law firm in the 90s. Yes, I am that old. So back in the day, right, the computer viruses that were created and distributed, they were either designed to crash your entire computer immediately, right, or systematically over time, start infecting different software files or hardware like over time. Now, I'm noticing over the last decade with this exponential growth processing power, and social media and other like newer emerging technologies, is that over time, we become the programmable beings, right? Like the computers running our different operating systems. Each part of our operating system is our underlying assumptions, right? Assumptions that that operate underneath our consciousness, beneath the surface, sort of like a virus, right? And then we take all that information, we take all assumptions as if they are true. And time they've gone unchallenged, right? For years, sometimes decades, maybe your whole life, right? So we live out of these underlying assumptions that we take as true. And so on a computer, right? What happens, and type this in the chat, what happens when you leave too many apps open, right? Or when you get a virus? You know, what happens when you have too many apps running in the background? Type that in the chat. What happens to the battery? You know, what happens to the processing power? What happens when we have too many unchecked, right, running in the background of our, it slows, exactly, Christine. Yes, system down, Carl, Steve, yes, it could crash, right? Right, the battery dies quicker, the battery drains, the processing power slows down, starts lagging. Now, so if human beings are a lot like computers or smartphones, then you know, like we have all these assumptions, we have all these limiting narratives and stories that are under the surface of consciousness, slowing us down, right? Lagging, garbage in, garbage, exactly. So imagine having that first, and then drop us into this insane fast area, the fast area, right? The processing power is fast, life is faster, life is passing by quickly, you know, everything is just now, now, now. It's a completely new era. And small, little cute human beings, we've had to start adapting, right? And adjusting. Because we have all this technology that's us in saving time, but as we're using it as a time saver, it's making us feel more stressed and as if we actually should be doing more, more, and more. So we begin to hustle. We begin to hustle, hustle, hustle. And sometimes it feels like time is just shrinking. But most of the time, time is shrinking just because of our stinking thinking, right? It's because of our thinking. And what subscribing, you know, we've had to become these quick and learn and adapt. I mean, it's insane. You know, in the past, we want to tell somebody something, we would send a letter in the mail. And now it's like, oh my God, they haven't called me back. And, you know, you literally called them like a minute ago. It's insane. And we're supposed to keep up. Information overload, slander, attack, hate, with just a few clicks of a keyboard, right? In a room or at our houses. We've become desensitized, and we spend more time looking for evidence to be right about a thought or an assumption than actually questioning the thought or the assumption in the first place. Simply just subscribe to anything that has us feel better in the moment, not caring about how that may affect the next moment and the next moment and the next, and our kids' future and our planet's future. I mean, it's like instant gratification. So in my experience, what happened when COVID hit with all the other immediate issues that were highlighted was simply the effect of been growing for a really long time. And we could choose to be grateful it's here, because without it, and without a drastic breakdown or crash, we would not be aware how we've been living and relating over the past decades. Because as many of you know, COVID sort of like was a big thing the whole world was part of, right? But then on top of it, you had a century of political discord doing its cycles, right? Moving into a certain direction, right? There's environmental issues that have been evolving over time. So there's all this stuff that's been brewing, and we've become complacent and desensitized it all. So with that said, the pandemic and the division, political discord, environmental issues, it's actually not the cause of our problems today. It's not the cause of your problems today, not the pandemic, the division, the political. You're just in what we've created from the past, because this is the effect of them, right? The effect of not being present to the entire system as a whole, the effect of our egos, right? Running the show for way, way, way too long. To hear it as blame or that you did something wrong, right? Because we couldn't have done it other way, given the level of consciousness we were. Right. So it's not about beating it up and like, oh, I have to forgive myself for being like that. No. It's just, okay, that's what we were producing. I know we're capable of producing some awesome stuff right now. And that's what I'm in the, because I'm living in the other stuff right now. So here's a cool thing. All of this is like being hit over the head with a 2x4. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to hit back, or are we going to say, thank you for illuminating years of programming that simply is not creating what we want for future generations? Now what? It's up to us. Of course, it's about leadership. So what is a leader? I would love to hear from you guys in the chat. So I want you to think, okay, let's do this. I want you to think about who that you admire, right? Who's a leader that you admire? Someone in your family, maybe a mentor at work, or success businessman, or, you know, a politician, anyone living, or even from the past, not living anymore. And I want you to type it in the chat. Leader that you admire. I'm sure you have a few, but just pick one. And put it in the chat. So here we go. My friend Ingrid, Abraham Lincoln. Thank you, Kelsey, and thank you, Steve. A couple more. Let's get on the keyboard. Churchill, like, nice, love it. Come on, one more. You, Joe, okay. And on that note, let's move on. Okay, so Golda Meir. This is awesome. All right, so now, what are some of the traits or qualities that they, right? So whoever you put in, or if you want to comment on the ones that you see there, what are traits or qualities that they have? And type that into the chat. So what are some of the traits or qualities your friend Ingrid has, or, you know, Abraham Lincoln, or Churchill, or me, Golda Meir? So humble, okay, humble, definitely a quality. Let's see some other ones. I'll just take a sip of my while you type. Good. Present to the moment, hopeful for a better future. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to bring up a slide. Takes no shit. It is kind, communicates clearly. I love it. Okay. So there's a slide up now. So I want you to think of these 3 different categories, okay? Skill, knowledge, and attitude, right? And let's take some of what you wrote as far as the qualities, right? So you put humble, good communicator, present, right? Hopeful, takes no shit, kind, communicates, ability to connect, right? And where would you put most of those in skill, knowledge, or attitude? Right? So would you put it in skill, knowledge, attitude, like humble, communicative, attitude, right? And I think that most of you probably agree. Yeah. So there was this research conducted by Harvard University and the Carnegie Foundation and Stanford Center, right? And they all concluded, and this was in job success, but let's just take this study. They concluded that 85% of job success comes from having well-developed soft people skills. And 15% of job success comes from technical and knowledge, which is hard skills. So skill and knowledge, hard skills, attitude is soft skills, okay? And so the soft skills are what you said. We call them in the trainings, we call them ways of being, right? Leadership, responsibility, teamwork, flexible, open, integrity, humility, humble, right? All these are our soft skills, our ways of being. Now, I want you to think about, and you don't have to type this in, I want you to think how much money you spent on enhancing your knowledge and in your skills, right? In your lifetime. Versus, so like, how much did you spend financially on like college, right? Or some skills training or whatever. So how much money do you think you've been on honing in your skills, your knowledge, right? In your lifetime, versus how much you have spent on working on mastering your attitudes and ways of being in all areas of your life, right? Like, what's your attitude? You work on your attitude when you wake up. Do you work on your attitude when you go to Starbucks and get your coffee? At the office, pick up the kids from school, right? How much time and money have you spent honing in those skills, right? So in another study from 2010, they looked at how much money was spent on hard skills. So like, this is news. How much money did they spend on giving their employees hard managers versus soft skills? And in 2010, they up with that 72% of actual dollars spent towards hard skills, right? And only 28% towards soft skills. Now, if soft skills are 6 times more important than hard skills for jobs, why is almost 3/4 of all the training dollars going to hard skills? There's a huge disconnect. Now, add to this, right? The Harvard was done in 1980, right? So we've known this over 100 years, yet not much have changed because it's so ingrained in us. Or should I say, we have these underlying beliefs that we just can't to shake, at least yet. Because it was until the 90s that schools began to develop and integrate character education, right? And they're far behind in that. So we, as a collective, we're simply running this old operating system as if it's still real and new and valuable. It's fascinating to me. All the studies are out there. But we're like, no, I ain't gonna myself or my way and be. I'm not going to spend money on myself. It's just like it's in us, unmovable, completely static. So in the 20s, right, we get clear through research that soft skills are 6 times more important for success, right? Then not until the 60s does the human potential movement start. And not without lots of criticism, regardless of the incredible results generated by students of that work. It challenged a belief that skill and knowledge or cognitive intelligence is more important than being an emotionally intelligent being. And it wasn't until the 90s that even EQ began to catch on. EQ being emotional intelligence versus IQ, which is cognitive intelligence. So what's the deal here? I'll tell you. I'll tell you what the deal is. Human beings are righteous about our beliefs and what we think we know, that we will ostracize anything that challenges how we have it. And we're talking 100 years here. And what we tend to do with that righteousness is make up shit. And then only subscribe to information that will back up what we're being right about. Now, here's the catch. The only way out of this box of beliefs is to experience it for yourself. Because when we read about something, we don't really experience the effect of what we're reading. Take, for instance, like learning how to ride a bike. You cannot learn riding a bike by reading the manual. You really have to get on the bike and do it, experience it. Right? And then the cool thing is you can put the bike away for 10 years and you bring it out and you can still ride it. It's ingrained in us. You have now transformed something in your body that it now you are aware and you use it. You're outside of the box of not being able to ride a bicycle. But you had to experience it. So this is called experiential learning. And it's a necessary ingredient in having a chance at challenges that may not serve you or the world anymore. Anyone that's a mother out there having kids is the most amazing experiential learning experiences that you can ever get, because they'll throw you curveballs constantly. So in Rewired for Peace, the 6-week course that I do, we do just that, right? Start challenging your beliefs. We begin to have you uncover if what you're doing and how you're being in terms of your attitude is effective, and if it's creating what you want according to your vision, to your values and your principles. And we call this attitude, like I said, or this soft skill, your way of being. You know which ways of being or soft skills are required for you to get to where you want to go, where you want to be. How do you to get from the current reality to a transformed reality? Well, first you have to want it. Whether it's from the pain of where you are driving you, or maybe it's your vision of where you want driving you. But once you're clear that you want it, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. But you have to believe it's possible and that you have everything it takes to go for it. Then you're ready for the essential piece, which is commitment and committed action. So if you look on the sides, you can see the gap, right? See the gap if you look at the screen. So to get current reality where your current results are to a transformed reality where your desires are, there's a gap in between. And we call this the gap. I know, it's brilliant. Came up with that all by myself. Just kidding. I see the gap is the space between where and where we're heading, right? So you're in your current reality, and then you get to something new. You enter the gap. And then you're immediately in what we call a breakdown, because who you're being and your actions now in the current reality is not congruent with the person that would have what it is you want in your desired reality, right? So on some level, and it is in this gap that you're in the ways of being and actions necessary to get to where you're going. They will be revealed to you. So essentially, your commitment, whatever it is for you, is what defines your gap. And your commitment is also what will bridge the gap. So taking committed action towards the things that you want is what's going to have you out. What are the ways of being you need to master and what actions you need to take? Otherwise, you're just going to sit in your hamster wheel with your current results. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad. It might be exactly where you're. So for me, while the answer has been clear for a while, but the road to the answer and the road to this has not been so easy, right? The experience of it, not so much. So like I said in the beginning, like while the pandemic was the final blow to my business and livelihood, it wasn't my 2x4. My 2x4 happened in 2017, right? Years before the pandemic. And it was when Hurricane Irma destroyed my mining center. That was definitely a 2x4. And subsequent to that, I had about 5 more blows. And yet I kept doing the same thing over and over, except expecting different result, which we all by now is the definition of insanity, right? My operating system was not, and I kept rebooting. But I was rebooting in the same operating system every time. So by the time COVID shut down gratitude training overnight, I had no energy, nor any more I didn't need more Joe power to reboot. And somehow I knew it was time to take a real hard look at what is going on with me and with the world. And so I got immersed in, and I still am, in currents and observing social media and like looking, reading, and I began to realize that the problem wasn't really what I thought it was. It was actually a lot simpler than I thought. And it all boils down to taking personal responsibility, committed action, transformational leadership. Personal responsibility, committed action, and transformational leadership, which is why I wanted to have this course on leadership. Because essentially, when we begin to, when we begin to become accountable for the past and take responsibility for the present, we can create from a clear space. We can say, that was so, this is now. Now what? Now what? And instead of reacting to everything in a loop of, I know this happened in the past, so I can predict what's going to happen in the future, and constantly, if we can just create enough space, a moment to reflect, to stop, and before we react based on our assumptions, before we react, before we describe, before action on it, whatever the situation, create enough space to have a choice, Then from a powerful place of responsibility, make a choice that aligns with what's important to you, your principles, your commitments, your vision for the world. That should be all that matters. And when we do that, there is a new form of leadership that emerges. It's a leadership that's completely unique to each and every one of us, each and every one of you. And it'll show up different. It'll show up unique. And you are going to know what it is for you. And you may already know. Now, I'm going to show you some foundational element leadership, right, to get you started on this. And this next slide is credited to Werner Erhard, or the stuff in the slide. I made the slide, but some of the stuff in it is his, right? So 4 ways of being for great leadership. Okay. So number 1, being authentic. And feel free to type in chat, like what is being authentic to you? Like, what is being authentic in the context of leadership too, right? So feel free to type it in. What do you think being authentic? And even if you want to mute yourself and say it, if that's easier, that's fine too. Speaking my truth, being a good listener, patient with responses, right? Truthful. Love it. Right? So being authentic, realistic, maybe. Being authentic, real, maybe. Being authentic is being and acting consistent with who you hold yourself to be for others and who you hold yourself out to be for yourself, right? Being and acting consistent with who you hold yourself out to be for you and for others. Because when you're leading, if you're being authentic, it actually leaves you grounded and able to just be straight up, be honest and powerful with others without the use of force. Now, the crazy thing about authenticity is that there's actually nothing authentic about trying to be authentic, right? You cannot pretend to be authentic. You can't try, because that by definition is inauthentic. So the only path to being authentic is being authentic about your inauthenticities. Own your ugly, fess up, clear your. It's important for leadership, for that kind of leadership. Okay, number 2. Did I actually take the video off? Yeah, let me share it back again. Number 2, being cause in the matter of everything in your life. Being cause in the matter of everything in your life. What do you think that might mean? Being cause in the matter of everything. I mean, I alluded to it a little bit here. So what are you if you're being cause in the matter of everything in your life? I am the author of my life. Right. Well said. Ownership, accountable, right? Responsibility. So being cause in the matter is actually a stand you like. It's a stand you take on you take it on yourself, take it for your life. To stand. It's a declaration. It's not a statement of fact. Right? But it's a stand you take that says, I'm cause in the matter of everything in my life. Being willing to view life from this perspective leaves you, because it has you give up the right to be a victim. Okay? It has you give up the right to be a victim when you becoming the cause in the matter of everything in your life. Like I said earlier, we're sitting in what we've created. It's nobody else's quote unquote fault. Give up the right to be victim. So it's not necessarily true, right? That we're cause of everything in our lives. Place to stand, from which to view and deal with life and life circumstances. And it only exists because you're choosing it. It's a matter of your choice to choose to stand there. So it's going to be up to you on that one. It's probably up to you with the authenticity one too, right? All right, next one, being committed to something bigger than oneself, right? Being committed to something bigger than oneself. It's like the sort of the serene passion, right? The charisma required to lead and develop, right? To develop others as leaders. It's the source of persistence, right? When the path is tough, you get knocked down and you get up again. Being committed to something bigger than oneself. Because the thing is, if you're not, you're unlikely to preserve in the valley of tears, right? That is an inevitable experience in the lives of all true leaders. You know, times when nothing goes right, no help, there's no way, nothing there. So having that strength to preserve in the face of impossible, insurmountable hurdles and barriers. Okay. And the last one is to be a person of integrity. So what does that mean? Be a person of integrity. What would you say that it's actually the last one for the being accountable works here too. Say what you do, what you say. Simple, right? Integrity. Yes. Be your word, or on your word, be your word. So integrity for anything is actually the state of being whole, complete, unbroken, right? Sound, in perfect condition. So integrity is a matter of that person's word being whole and complete. More and nothing less. Yeah, exactly. And tell people when they can't, right? Keep your whenever possible and tell people when you can't. That's exactly it. Because you have the choice to either honor your word, right? Honoring your word is keeping your, or honoring your word is also whenever you can't keep your word, become aware that you will not be keeping your word. Saying to every impacted that, one, I will not be able to keep my word. Two, I'm going to word in the future by when, or that you're never going to keep that specific word, whatever it is. Amen. Three, what you will do to deal with the impact on others of the failure to keep your word, or, be on time or whatever. That's it. Acknowledge, right? Recommit, clean up. That's what leaders do. Hey, sorry, boss. I acknowledge that I'm late for work. I am committed to being on time from now on. And, what I will handle right now, XYZ happened and this how you were affected. And so I'm going to deal with that right now. And a relationship of integrity with you, whatever it is, like boom, 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 clean up, clean up, clean up. But what do most of us do? We over it, sweep it under the rug. And over time, we become these people that are just whole. I mean, we're always holding, but like we're out of alignment, right? We're not. Now, like these foundations here, right? Being a cause in the matter of everything, being committed to something bigger, and being a person of integrity, they're not good or bad or wrong from a values perspective, right? There's a path to credibility, to create trust, peace, joy, social value, whatever. Values are, however, so we might not have these as values in that level, but values are important when you start creating principles for your life. Principles. And it's important to get clear on what your personal principles are. So how many on this call, right? How many on this call are clear on what your core principles are? Like if I said, what are your core principles? You could just go boom, 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 right? Type, yes, I'm clear. So just yes, no, meaning not clear, or somewhat, meaning, you got loose things out there that you operate from. So type yes, clear on my core principles, no, haven't even thought about it, or not clear at all, or somewhat. That in the chat. Loose. Loosey goosey. Steve's clear on his principles. All that was clear by the way that you introduced yourself. So that's good, Steve. So go yes, no, or what? Thinking about it. All right, I'll keep somewhat. There we go. All right, I'll keep going. You can still type. There we go. Clear about relationships, principle, but not so much work. Okay, awesome. See, just to clear on that. I love it. Oh, here comes someone in too. Now, values are qualities, right? Or standards that govern the behavior of a person. Whereas principles are more like rules or beliefs that govern our actions. So it's more like tangible, more like a rule. So the difference between values and principle is that principles are based on a person's values. So it's the values that act as a foundation for principles. So for instance, if value is connection, right? You might value connection. Your principle could be family or oneness or community or whatever, right? If you is love, your principle would be how you love. So maybe quality time. My principle is to be kind to all or whatever, right? If your value is integrity, your principle could be honoring your word. So that's sort of how values and principles go. So I want to show you from our leadership course at the graduate, I want to show you the 5 principles of leadership. Because they're valuable in taking on life leader. Okay, so let me get those up here. All right, 5 principles of leadership. So number 1, if it's to be, it's up to me. So what do you think that is? That is responsibility, right? If it's to be, it's up to me. It's that stand of being responsible, being the author, narrator of everything that. And by standing as that responsible, you have the power to be able to say, if it's to be, it's up to me. Okay. Number two, 100% possible 100% of the time, right? There's always possibility. And a lot of the times the possibility may exist in the realm of the unknown, right? In the realm of the stuff that we don't even know. But if we close our information and everything we know into our little box, yes, many times we'll feel like we don't see the possibility, and maybe we don't think we have 100% possible 100% of the time. So it's that space of what you know and what you don't know, and just open to possibility, because the moment you're open to possibility, shit happens and things show up. Number three, I live my vision as though my life and the lives of others depend on it. I live my vision as though my life and the lives of others depend on it. Now, as though is a pretty important word in that sentence, right? As though. So I'm not saying that you should go live your vision, thinking you're going to die or your friends are going to die if you don't. It's as though I live it as though my life and the lives of others depend on it. It's like play the game of life as if your life on it, knowing all it doesn't. So that's that commitment, right? Okay, now the next one. My vision, commitments, and processes are what dictates my way of being and actions. Okay. My vision, commitments, promises are what dictates my way of being and actions. So not your feelings, right? Not your judgment, not your gossip, not your assessment. None of that should dictate your way of being and your actions. That has you be miserable. It has you be like the fly at the seat of your pants. Get clear on your vision. Get clear on your commitments, right? Get clear on what your promises are. And then have that pull forward. Have that dictate the way that you act and be. And then the last one is, I am grateful for everything. Right? There's always something to be grateful for. This is my favorite one. There's always something to be grateful for. In fact, right now, something right now that you're grateful for in the chat. One thing that you're grateful for, because I know you can access it. Right? What are you grateful for? Great for everything, first of all, right? Married to a wonderful woman for 40 years and 183 days. But Steve, who's counting? Who's counting? My husband, right? The new electric blankets. I love electric blankets. I'm grateful for those all the time. Being alive, right? It's amazing. Being grateful for everything. So even if you feel like you might have something, say the world is crashing down on you, you might feel like you don't have anything to be grateful for. You do. Because you're creating it. You're setting it up. So you might as well be grateful for how brilliant you are, like creating that crazy car accident or whatever. Like there's always something to be grateful for. And you know why things are happening. And how many times in your life, 20 years later, you go, oh, of course, I am who I am today because that happened. But when you were in it, life was ending. Right? So learn to just be grateful, like no matter if it's tough or not. That's taking responsibility to the next level. Okay. Transformational leadership, right? It's a little bit different than the regular, like the regular leadership, or the way that the drift has it, or have it in the world today, I should say. Transformational leadership is about being aware, like to have a vision that drives you, to be authentic, to be kind, loving, compassionate. And it doesn't matter what stage you're on, right? If you're at the stage, at home with kids, or if you're on the world stage, both matters just as much in the entire puzzle of life. And I think we forget that each person's contribution has the exact same value. Exact same. These billion beings, right, with our unique ways of contributing is what makes life whole, perfect, and complete. Even though sometimes we may not think it is. It is. Everything is exactly as it should be, given who we are collective. So what we all need to do is to begin to focus on what works, to begin to focus on what's right in the world, right? And then you will inspire of that in others and, in what you see. But the moment we think we know better about someone else's life journey and their unique contribution, like the moment we think we know and we think be or think different than they, we crush any possibility for autonomy and harmony and peace. This is key right here. Because we think we know something. Oh, something about leadership. I'm a great leader. I'm better than you. I'm more aware than you. I'm more awake. Oh, they need training. They should do this, right? You are not better ever. You can never be better than anything because we're inherently all as good, whole, perfect, and complete. So what do we do, right? Who do we be? Well, we accept what is, right? We accept where we're at. We let go of the past, and then we recreate our future from nothing. Not a predictable future based on where we're at right now. We're in like some really interesting time in the world right now. Really interesting. But we create something from nothing, something that we don't even know exists. We declare what we want, and then we take a stand to it. Be connection, gratitude, love in all of our affairs, right? And most importantly, we shine our light. We shine our light. And I want to share a video that we use in the leadership program. Some of you may have seen it if you've done the trainings. But I'd like to show it here anyway. So here we go. Make sure. Boom. So thank you for letting me share that. We are, you know, it it's my belief that what's needed at this moment in time is leaders that know how to be the guiding light for everyone in their presence and beyond. And it's not even that hard, like when we start to awaken and we to become aware, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed, because some people will almost even get like a sense of like, oh my god, I am God, I am the author, I know, like I'm so powerful, like, and then you're like, oh my god, this is overwhelming because the world is so big, and how do I share, how do I spread my light, how do I do that? And it really is just in the moment presence that you how you exist, because really what you can count on, at least for now, is when you wake up, you up another day. When you go to bed for another day. Like that's it. So whatever you do in the time between, whether you're sitting and resting or whether you're up and moving about the world, just choose kindness, connection, and presence, and it will get all the place. So it's not like you have to immediately, go tomorrow and clean up all the beaches, and stuff will naturally happen if you start being peace, right? So, if we become aware, we become interested, we start learning distinctions, right? Virtues, values, concepts, and tool, like all these things that will thrive as a transformational leader. They said, like, the other day I was thinking about, you can be transformed or not, you know. Thinking, can you actually be transformed, and what does that mean? So I looked it up and I read it a little bit, and the I subscribe to, is it true or not, I don't know, but what I subscribe to is that if you're not conversation of transformation, but if you are living the distinctions and in the conversation of transformation, you could yourself quote unquote transformed. It somewhat lands with me. I actually think that life is like we already are, right? We're everything. We are everything. And so we're already there. It's just a matter of us to apply it. So it's up to all of us together to rewrite the narrative, right, that we want to leave for future generations. So it's time to stop smack and choose to be inspired instead of something, and be something. Now, I get that most of us have considerations, right? Uh, Especially after with COVID and everything else that's going on, like maybe you had people dying. There's all this division, there's families breaking up because of political division right now. Maybe you lost your job, your business, what, race, gun shoot. There's so much going on, right? So it may take us some time as a collective to rise up again, because it took us decades to get here. So instead of looking at that as, oh, I just want it now, that's too much, it's like let's access hope here. Let's access hope, because that's what's going to get us there. So on the simplest level, choose something that will change your path a little bit, just a little, maybe pick an hour a day, put down the phone, right? Choose something that will matter, and then do that and again and again, recycle. Call someone you haven't talked to, whatever, that just begin to lead in your life. That's how you become a leader in the new narrative. That's how you become a leader for the world rather than in the world. So what's next then? How can I support you in supporting me to create this new world of peace and harmony and light? So what I'm doing now is like, I'm going global, right? I'm committed to inspire like all of you to your leadership and be part of like a new movement that's going to foster and birth a new paradigm, right? So for those of you that resonate with this movement, or a movement that, I'm actually calling you to accept your birthright to make a difference by honing in your unique gifts, identify your effective ways of being, and begin to master your EQ, your ways of being. So I want you to join me, to explore what the world needs now. Like, I don't have the answers. But like, what does the world need now? Who are we in our day-to-day life, right? And how can we each plug into the vibration that has us serve our kids, our families, communities, and the world in the most effective way? So it's not really about self-help anymore. Although I say, I think that the world is in a very interesting phase right now as far as mental health. So there's definitely mental health needs out there right now. But for those that are that need the next level, it's not really about the self-help anymore. So it's about bringing us to the table, right? Authentic and honest and ready to lead from compassion and lead from emotional intelligence and love, whether it's in our home or at work or in the world. Because when we all awaken to the notion of being the author, right? Like Steve said, like being the author or being source, the generators, the creators, we then regain the power to make a profound on the planet now. Because the transformational leader focuses on mastering their being first. Like skills and knowledge are essential, trust me, but they means little. They means little for the fulfilled, successful life if the emotional intelligence is not there. The way the masses have leaders, like a regular leader, we'll call it, they usually acquire the skill set and then they attempt to that, right? And then they fail, and then they fail again. And then they realize they have to shift how they're being to create what they want. And then what do? They write a powerful book about how they did it. And then everybody that's not doing it want to buy the book and do the course, right? That's kind of how we're doing. But still, it's like you have to be able to access those ways of being to be active, right? That's why so many people right now, so many adults are picking up all these books or listening to podcasts on how to hone in on the qualities of successful people. But what most people difficult is they even see or know themselves enough all they already are. There's nothing really that tells you how to do that. So how do we do that? We do that, like I said earlier, through experience. I mean, here I've had a solidified, like you've had a solid transformational change in your entire being, right? Because of a hard, significant experience, right? You had like so many of us have transformational change through a harder significant, but you know what? We don't have to go through that. We don't have to lose another loved one to understand grief. You don't have to get another divorce to get rejection is. You don't have to go through all ship to learn the hard way. In the 6-week course, Rewired for Peace, which is for the undergraduate training, essentially a part one, it's redesigned, it's reformatted, it's recontextualized. But for those that have done part one, you'll be familiar with the work, right? The 6-week course, it uses a transformational technology that essentially breaks all of this down to nuts and bolts and gives you the awareness and that will work in any and all situations. Death, pandemic, loss, stress, division, family issues, relationship issues, all of it. It'll work for all of it. And this technology is used by probably hundreds, maybe even more companies across the world. But the reason you may not have heard of it, if this is new to you, is because it was always kind of secret, and there was a secrecy to this training because it's experiential. You don't want to give information away because that would ruin the experience if you knew the answer of an experience, right? But here's a sentence of what Rewired for Peace is. So let's have someone read, actually. Do you mind reading this? There you go.
Me?
Yeah.
Rewired for Peace is an opportunity to uncover and redesign the underlying assumptions out of which you live your life such that you experience a profound shift in your ability to relate to yourself and others, empowering you to fully engage your heartfelt commitments with freedom and passion.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you.
So it's an opportunity to uncover, design the underlying assumptions out of which you live your life. It's like one of the longest sentences in the world, but it actually is a grammatically correct sentence, I believe. But so that you experience a profound in your ability to relate to yourself and empowering you to fully engage your heartfelt commitment, freedom, and passion. That's it. Now, if you're on this call and you're like, maybe you think like, I'm not really a leader, or I don't want to be a leader, like in the traditional sense, like you actually owe it to yourself. You owe it to our future generations and everyone you master life and master your emotional intelligence. That's how you be peace. That's how you be peace until you then experience peace and then you start seeing peace. So my big sales for today, do the 6-week training, right? Just sign up for Rewired for Peace after this call. I'm offering it for $475 on the website, at least $675, but I'm knocking off an extra $200 for you. So the entire course plus some awesome assistance, $275. Do the training. I don't know what else to say. There's no magic wands. There are no quick fixes, no shortcuts. And I don't want to sell you any of that anyway. Like I know that this course, and I know a course that will catapult you and your results and create a community of powerful change makers, whether it's in your life or world. And I'll address one more thing. This is for you on this call. I did see there was someone that had done the training a couple of times. For those of you that have done the training, right, in the US before the pandemic, because like I said, Rewired for Peace is a lot like the part 1 that you took, right? Here's what you should do, Rewired for Peace, right? It's a great refresher. We all had a few challenging years, just admit it. The drift is power, right? Second, you may want to join me and become certified to deliver these introduction courses, leadership, whatever, and the 6-week course on to your own community under your own umbrella. And it's a prerequisite to actually attend as is first. So do the training. So after this call in a couple hours, I'll send you an email with the recording from today and the link. But I do want to just give you the link right now too. I'm actually going to bring it up. I'll pop it in the chat. It's so hard to not work in my office because I have so many screens in my office. Here I have like this one little laptop, things in my way. Okay, there's the link. And go to, I think. I see it. There it is. Okay, so Rewired for Peace. So the next one actually starts January 10th. And I personally am excited to have a class that early in January because it sort of sets that New Year's resolution. It sets you up to win in all areas. So it starts January 10th and it's every Tuesday Eastern time. It's like a lunch hour. So it's 2:30 to 1:30 p.m. And that's because and that has it kind of work win-win for everyone. And there you have so after this call and when you get the email, you have 48 hours, maybe a little bit 52 hours to the special $275 offer. There's some testimonials on the site, how it works, and the bonuses are on here. Actually going to get my Source Movement online recorded course, which is a self-study course. Alone is $275, so that's one of the bonuses. We're going to have a private Facebook group during the course, and then weekly Q&A. The course is so information heavy. I do a hourly Q&A office hour actually at night for the people on the East Coast here. So it's at 6 p.m. on Thursdays. And that is to actually come in and ask questions and dig deeper and sort of get the word more. But it's optional, so it's not like you have to be there. Does anyone have any questions? I would love to, let me take this off. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to ask, like, why should I do the next certification starts on the 5th. No, sorry, I moved it for those who are in there. It starts on the 12th, actually. Is a chance for someone that wants to be certified to be a casework. There's actually an opportunity that you could jump in and do the same time as you're getting certified. Very intense, but there is a possibility. So I just wanted to say that in case someone's on here for that reason. If you want to take this course, I'm going to ask you to move into the gap. Committed. Let's do this. I am clear on where the world needs to go, and I think that all of us are needed. And if you don't this to work on your ways of being and your leadership and your contribution and your all of that, find something because we owe it to, like I said, the generations, and we owe it to ourselves, so some of you are good, thanks. If you are I'm good, then you need to get to everyone is good. Okay, if you are I'm good, you need to get to everyone is good in your life. And if you are at I'm not good, then you need to get yourself, because we're needed. So what I'm going to put up a quote and play an awesome song. And for those that are committed to joining me in January 10th in the Rewired for Peace course, you can actually take some time right now while you do the song, read the quote to sign up. Also, like I said, I'll send you a link in your email. And if you do have a minute, I would love to put in the chat what your biggest takeaway was from before you go, because I would love to see where you guys are at. And again, let me put this on review real quick. All right. Does anyone have any question before I start a song? Okay. Again, the link is in the chat. So thank you, everyone. Put a song on if you have a chance to write what take away, or stay on and listen to the song, or sign up. I look forward to seeing you. Oh, birthday. Yeah, great birthday gift, Kelsey. All right, thanks. Oh, I can't hear the music. Oh, there we go.
Every time I fall down, as soon as I hit the ground, remind me who I am, yeah, and I'll get back up again. I'm getting up, yeah. This is my master plan. I'm gonna take a stand. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. I believe that I can. I'm gonna take command. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. I am what I am. I am what I am. Bend them backwards, you're defeated. I'll make them understand, yeah. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. Rebels inside my head. Late at night in my bed. It's time I shut you up, yeah. 'Cause I think I've had enough. I've had enough, yeah. This is my master plan. I'm gonna take a stand. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. I believe that I can. I'm gonna take command. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. I am what I
starting real quick here.